Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Standard Liege. We are here. There you go. This is the press conference room at Standard Liege. And the fact we're in here is because it's air conditioned. Let's be honest about it. It's 31 degrees up there, and we're trying to spend as little time up there as is humanly possible. But you don't care about that. You want the team news. We have the team news. We've got plenty to dissect and to bring you in terms of individual players. But this is how Norwich City line up here this afternoon. Archie Mayer in goal. We're expecting him to play 60 minutes today, and George Long probably to get the other half an hour. A back four of Stacey, Grant Hanley returns, and captains aside, Sorensen and Kellen Fisher at left back. And we are expecting him to be at left back, not in midfield. Midfield three, Kenny McLean is back, Gabriel Sara and Marcelino Nunez, with Rowe, Sainz on either flank, and Adam Eder through the middle. There's quite a few players to get through in a moment, but just to give you an idea of the players that have been named on the bench: George Long, Finch, Reneka, Warner, Montoya, Hills, Adeboyega, Tompkinson, Dedeji, Manning, Forsyth, Springett, Onel Hernandez is back, Finley Welsh, Liam Gibbs is back, Abu Kamara, and Ken Abo. Let's start with the goalkeeper then, Paddy, because obviously people will have used their eyes. They will have seen that there's two Scottish or two members of Norwich City's Euros Scottish contingent starting today and back, having been at the Euros. No Angus Gunn.
No, and we've just had a brief chat with a Norwich official. Nothing untoward. He's here, obviously. I'm sure people have seen him in the footage the club have put out. There's a sense, though, he's carrying a little hand issue, and maybe he did it prior to Scotland's sort of Euro campaign, and maybe had to have an injection or two just to get through those games. So, like Johannes said after the other night with Duffy and with Fashnet, Barnes even, who stayed behind in England, no risk strategy. And that's where we are with Gunn. I think the expectation is he will feature next week when we get back to England and they play Magdeburg. So he is here, but the reason he's not involved today is just a precautionary measure, really. But clearly, if there was a major issue, then he wouldn't have even travelled out. And certainly nothing transfer related. We can kill that one.
Absolutely not. And I think with the goalkeepers, and I think there's been a question from someone about George Long from Ben. Sorry, Ben, I'll bring that up now. Something about Long being out of favour. I think what we're simply seeing is he got 60 minutes the other night. Archie Mayer got 30. So today Archie Mayer's getting 60 and he's getting 30. Yeah. I think that's all we're seeing here, really, rather than anything. Obviously, the boost for Norwich, the two Scots are back, Hanley and McLean. It's going to be really interesting to see them this afternoon, isn't it? Particularly how they fit into Johannes Hofturup style of play. Probably more question marks around Grant Hanley in that regard. But certainly at the Euros, there was a real step forward in terms of his performance levels after what was a huge injury ordeal, really, for him. But equally had a few setbacks in that as well.
Yeah, I mean, that was about as far away from ideal preparation for Grant Hanley to go into a massive major tournament for his country off the back of, barely playing for his club last season, which in itself was the root cause of that was that Achilles injury, bad one he got the previous season. Concerns, will he get back to that level? Because that was quite a major injury he had. And as we know, what happened towards the end of the season when he was available, there was one or two games, Middlesbrough springs to mind, where he did look off it, that away game. And then David Wagner announced that, he had to pull him out of the first team cycle, going on an individual training program and just try and get him, I think David's words were, that explosiveness back in his game and that intensity. Clearly, it didn't work in sense that he came back in and played a leading role for Norwich, but he's gone off with Scotland. Then I think it was the Switzerland game, actually. If I'm not mistaken, it was that final group game where he was as good as any Scotland player on the pitch that night and felt a real step forward. So you hope today we see maybe the Hanley of old, or glimpses of it, albeit in a pre-season setting, and it's still about minutes, and the heat today is not going to be conducive to making too many assessments. But moving forward, we talked about this on the Spaces the other night, that it feels like there is a very fluid situation at centre-back around who partners Cordoba, because I think, with a fair wind, you don't go out, recruit a guy, pay upwards of €3 million and then sit him on the bench. He will play, he will start, barring any unforeseen issues between now and Oxford, who lines up alongside him. And today Hanley gets his opportunity just to remind everybody that you shouldn't discount him from the equation. I think it's interesting again for me, more so with the ongoing situation with left back, that Kellen Fisher, the versatile Kellen Fisher, gets a go at left back today, which is, it would seem Thorpe wanting to have a little look at him in that position. The first two games he's played in that central midfield role, but now with Kenny back today, an opportunity to have a look at him. We know On the right, he's very comfortable. We may have seen him once or twice on the left or switching into those positions during a game, but I don't recall him starting a game at left back. So that's an interesting one for me because, as we know, there is clearly a need to address that situation between now and Oxford. And then further forward, I mean, you look at some of the potential again in terms of attacking and the combinations there, and it is with Nunes back in as well. Quite mouth-watering, actually.
Yeah, one player we just while we're on the defence specifically, no Shane Duffy. There was obviously a knock there in midweek. It sounds like he's returned to England, Paddy.
Shane Duffy, yeah. I think there was I think he put it out on his socials as well, didn't they? There was a situation with his dog sadly passed away. Yeah. So I think those two combined. I think Johannes, again, back to the point you made about minutes and monitoring the minutes that players have got. He played at Northampton on the opening weekend. They clearly felt he wasn't needed today. Obviously, with Hanley back in the mix, and that is a fair assessment. He's carrying a knot. He's had that personal issue. And he has already gone back to England. And we've had it clarified because I don't think it was clear early in the week, but Fashnacht never actually came out. He picked up a minor knock in training and is basically not with the group and wasn't with the group at any point in Belgium. Yeah, and neither is Ashley Barnes either. No. Both of them, well, Ashley Barnes certainly is back at Colney. It looks like Christian Fashnacht is in Switzerland at the moment. I think he's definitely somewhere else. As he's got his own program to work on essentially, so he's not sure he's definitely not here. But two people who are here, which will be a real boost really for Norwich and for Johannes Hofturup as he continues this kind of assessment phase of what at the moment is obviously a big squad. We'd expect him after this tour to probably trim around the edges of some of those young players. The 21s they're playing today actually against Galston, I think, and they've got a full pre-season schedule coming up. So they'll probably, more of them will filter into that. Some of them will depart on loan. It will get a little bit thinner. Onel Hernandez and Liam Gibbs back today, Paddy. It's Onel Hernandez has been injured since February, March time. Yeah. Liam Gibbs, obviously in that game at Sheffield Wednesday towards the back end of the season. A, how good is it to see them both back? And B, I guess, what sort of a role do you expect them to play today? Do you think it will be half an hour? Do you think it will be less than that? It's hard to say, isn't it? I suppose the heat's a factor as well. You don't want those other players to overexert themselves in these sort of type of conditions. It is oppressively warm today, so I think we could see probably another mass changes again, if not at 45, then certainly on the hour mark. And if so, then those two you reference are going to be getting half an hour each, and just a little personal milestone for them to tick off, because I'm sure it's been frustrating, particularly with the change of head coach. You want what do you want to do if you're a player? You want to impress the new person as soon as you can, and they've not really had that opportunity. But back in training, now back in the squad, and you would feel probably going to get back on the pitch at some point. I'm interested. I think we know what Onel offers, but Liam Gibbs in a Torup footballing side and the demands and the type of profile he likes in terms of midfielder, is Liam Gibbs tailor-made for that. It feels like he has a lot of the attributes that the Dane would like. Right, boys. Is that who you were waving to there? Yeah, I thought you just waving to a random Belgian journalist over there. No. So, yeah, personally of the two, I think I know what Onel Hernandez will offer, but what can Liam Gibbs do under the guidance of Torup? Because let's be honest, under David Wagner, his career was going down a cul-de-sac, but barely used and certainly not in his right position. Yeah, we had lots of questions on Alameda, so we'll come on to that in a moment. Elliot has asked about Josh Sargent. We're expecting him and Jose Cordoba back next week. So potentially in the mix for next Friday, but it will depend, because as we've seen, some players have come back and had a little bit of a longer run up. Some of them have had a little bit of a shorter. You'd think with Sargent, there's probably maybe a willingness to ease him back in after everything that happened next season. You'd think Cordoba would want to hit the ground running. So probably depends on their individual sort of training regimes and programs as to how quickly we see them. But Alameda, Paddy, it was interesting to see him in 30 minutes the other night. I thought he played quite well. A lot of it was kind of back to goal link-up stuff rather than probably proper goal scoring opportunities, and getting to see him in that sort of environment. Today might be quite similar, but I thought some of the touches and some of the combinations and how he linked the play was very positive. But probably more interesting was Johannes' comments after the game, because he's certainly not budged, has he? For all of the noise and all of the constant speculation and stories that we've seen north of the border, Alameda is still here, and it feels like it's going to be a talking point until the end of the window. Oh, it certainly will be that, yeah. And And that situation doesn't change until Celtic or any other club meet Norwich's valuation for that player. And at the minute, the figures that you hear speculated, the conversations you have with people in and around the club, that Celtic or any other club for that matter aren't in that ballpark. So if you're Ben Napper and you're Forup, then there's nothing really to get your teeth into. Until that changes, then Adam Eder contractually is here for 4 years. He's a Norwich player. And what I liked about his performance was the energy, and he looked fit, and also what Johannes said after the game, that he's having, with a smile on his face, lots of chats. Because the point I was driving at there
very funny guy.
Yeah. But what was there a need to sit him down and almost, don't put any of those distractions in your head. I just want you to concentrate on your football. But it sounds like, they're just in regular dialogue, as he said. So, if Johannes and Adam Eder are on the same wavelength, then who knows? But at this stage, he'll play today. You'd imagine he'll play 45 to 60. And when you've got Johnny Rowe and you've got Borja Sainz, if those three start to fire, then Norwich
Nunez as well, Sarah.
Norwich, but certainly at the top end of that pitch, they're going to create chances. And with Adam Eder, one thing you cannot dispute, in a side creating chances, he knows where the goal is. So, it would be nice to see some more evidence of potentially what Norwich could look like after today's game.
Yeah, indeed, and it's definitely a day where you want the ball rather than having to be chasing it, I think. So it's going to be interesting to see just how far on, particularly given that what we're seeing today is players dropped back into it. We've kind of seen players that have maybe had 2 weeks of working under the new head coach. We're now seeing players who maybe have had a week. Does that impact what they do in terms of how they look and how easily that possession-based football that Torup wants to see is implemented? I think all of these will be really interesting today. But yeah, it is a mouth-watering, really. From Sarah, Nunez, Rose, Sainz, Eder. I mean, that should get any Norwich City fan excited in the right sort of conditions. In terms of the young players, Paddy, we had a little bit of a chat about this in terms of the other day on X Spaces or whatever it's called this week. Who do you think is closest as things stand? Because, for all of the reasons that I outlined earlier, we're probably expecting this to be trimmed down significantly. Obviously, Montoya, because he's the only one in the building at the moment, is going to be in and around that left-back position for a little while yet. Who else do you think has really pushed themselves forward in this pre-season? Enough probably that Torup will want to take a closer look at them, probably in a more senior environment.
It's hard to say with any certainty because you strip it all back. This is just purely fitness. I don't think you can draw too many conclusions about what it looks like for Oxford. That will come now, I think, beyond this week because you are rolling on now. There's a momentum to the pre-season. But on the evidence of, what we saw at Saturday, Northampton, then midweek, I mean, you're right, Deji, I like the look of him. But, is he going to muscle his way past Nunez, Sarah?
I'll back him.
Yeah, well, he'd certainly be able to probably physically do it, but metaphorically. But much like we're talking with Eder, there's scenarios there. Nunez has been linked away. Ken has been linked away. Nothing moving on that at the moment. But if that was to happen later in the window and there's a hole opened up in the squad, I'm not saying he suddenly then becomes into your 11, but does he become in and around a matchday squad? Because ultimately, as we know, under this regime, that's what they're trying to do now, bring young players through, create pathways. But he looked comfortable in that area. Good on the ball, physically, athletically, very good as well. I mean, Fisher's still a relatively young player. Well, he is a young player, albeit he's been in and around it a bit more than some of these other academy players. And I thought he's been good in the first 2 games as well. And tonight we'll see him maybe at left back, and if he catches the eye there, then he's really pushing his claims on it.
Finlay Welsh, I think, is one that's gone under the radar a little bit. I think he's done quite well in the games we've seen, particularly on Wednesday. I thought he was very neat and tidy and added a real energy into what Norwich have done. But again, the issue is particularly when you look at centre-backs and central midfield at the moment, where people are talking about Brad Hills, you've just mentioned Deji. There's a lot of options in there for Norwich at the moment. So it's going to be really difficult for these players to surpass. If you look at Hills, there's 7 centre-backs at the moment that you've got to try and get yourself into 2. That's going to be really difficult with the options that Norwich City have at the moment. Does that mean he can't be in and around it? Absolutely not. So, yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how that one unfolds. We've had a question on the away kit, I think, here. Any word on the away kit out there? There is going to be one. That's what we can say.
There will be an away kit.
There will be an away kit. Yeah.
They won't be wearing it today.
I think
we better be careful what we say, but they won't be wearing it today. But there will be an away kit.
There will definitely be an away kit at some point in the not so distant future. Borja Sainz, just finally, let's close off with him because he's back out wide. We've seen him play, and whether this was the lack of options and Torres wanting to have a look at Abu Kamara or whatever, or whether it was something that he felt he could do in the long term. But we've seen him play in a central midfield. He's out wide today. I thought he was quite good the other night, actually, in terms of his ball carrying abilities, albeit he made one error for the opening goal. And again, sort of as you said, it probably feeds into that wider debate around that attacking three. Rose, Sainz, Eder. It has the potential to be really mouthwatering.
Yeah, and it's been interesting to see him in nominally the left-hand side of the midfield three, but that goal was sourced because he was trying to dribble from the edge of his own box, got trapped by Zolis, a couple of passes, and it's a goal. You play him one further forward, and he's in less dangerous territories when he picks the ball up. And everything we know about him from last season, I think he's going to flourish under this guy because the brief clearly is we get the ball, we're fast, we move with speed, intelligence, quick decisions, creating chances, scoring goals. That's Borja Sainz to a T. And if you can unleash his potential, we saw the numbers that Zara produced in terms of goals and assists. I think he, in the right environment, there's no doubt in my mind he could go on and post similar sorts of numbers this season.
Good stuff. We're not going to get into score predictions or any of that sort of thing. But yeah, today's going to be really interesting because, like we said on Wednesday night, Norwich are playing a team who are in a very different place in terms of their own pre-season. This is their final one until they then go and play. I think they start their season away at Genk next Sunday. So they're in a very, very accelerated point of their pre-season, as were Club Brugge, who actually play in the Belgian Super Cup tonight.
They do, yeah.
So that goes to show the intensity and the step in levels. So again, I think cautiously, as we would probably say, whatever the scoreline is, hugely irrelevant. It will be about performance, and again, it will be about progress in terms of what they've done. So let's see how today unfolds. It's going to be absolutely scorching hot.
I can just answer this question.
Go on, then.
No is the answer because I think I saw him sign for Alaves. If it's the same guy we're talking about.
Okay.
Musa, was that Musa Diarra?
Yes,
yeah.
So yeah,
I think he left as he was a free agent. He was at Toulouse. If we've got the same,
all about left backs, isn't it? Maybe that'll be an apt place to end because I'm sure we'll get questions
nothing
about
happening as we sit here today, Connor.
Yes,
in terms of ins or outs.
There we go.
We'll leave it there.
There you go. That's a nice place to leave it. Thank you everyone for watching. Of course, I'll be on the live blog this afternoon, so do come and join me, and you'll definitely get all of the game in that. We can assure you of that. So come and join us. We've got a special offer which Paddy is going to tell us all about on the Think and Plus.
You put me on the spot there. Yeah, £3, 3 months.
Yeah.
Or we're not very good salespeople, but £15 for the year. I mean, what can you get for £15 for a whole year? Somebody will obviously point out something you can get for that.
Yeah.
But if you love Norwich City and you want your fix of Norwich City, we're out here. We'll be out in Austria. Obviously, goes without saying, any championship game, League Cup, we're there, home and away. So, if you want to be kept informed of what's happening in and around Norwich, then you could do worse. So definitely have a look at the offer. And certainly the 3 months, £3. That's not even
it's a bargain, isn't it?
It's not even the price of coffee, is it?
Depends where you go, I guess, doesn't it?
Well, I don't think you get a coffee for £3 these days. But so yeah, if you're not quite sure about maybe the annual, then dip your toe in the water. And but anybody who has taken out a subscription, hugely appreciated, and it allows us to be out here chatting inanely and trying to bring some insight and failing. So there we go. Yes, and thank you to Chips Away Norwich as well, who have also sponsored us to help get us out here to bring you guys the coverage. Right, I think that's a nice place to leave it. 40 minutes or so to go. We're going to try and stay in this room for as long as humanly possible before going up to the 31 degree heat. I think it's quite hot back home as well. Well, you're going on, Connor. So, it's like you're going playing. Yeah, well, you're doing sitting down. I'll be sweating like I'm playing, I think, in that heat. Anyway, that's enough. Thank you very much, and we'll see you again very soon.